bed. Up. 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 Dog. Hi, are you going to stay and help me with the video? Do you want to help? He's like, I don't know. What's the video going to be about? Well, if you sit and listen, I'll tell you. Hi. So, as you've deduced by the title of this video, this is a One Piece video where I'm going to be talking about aunts and uncles. Now, there is an Aunts and Uncles Day in the United States, but it's much earlier in the year, and I kind of forgot about it when I was kind of doing my, research for the various One Piece kind of family member setups. And I was like, well, I've done everything. Brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, grandparents. I'm sure there's like a Cousin's Day somewhere, but the only technically One Piece character I think that we've interacted with really that actually has any legitimate cousins, that's not like just some random background character, is Robin. That's it. And I'll explain why in a little bit, but so this is going to be about aunts and uncles. So I can't really do a Cousin's Day for One Piece, but I can do an Aunts and Uncles Day. And this is going up on Thanksgiving. I'm actually recording it the Sunday before Thanksgiving, just after when my dad's side of the family had their family Thanksgiving. Probably at about the time this will be going up. Well, it'll still be the morning, so the parades will be going on and everything like that, and I probably won't be working on cooking Thanksgiving yet, but then we'll be having my dad and my brother and my sister and my brother-in-law and her kids over to my mom's house to have Thanksgiving then. I'm going to close this door. For now. See how long the dog stays. And of course, Rainey will be at the family Thanksgiving. Of course, you'll probably be like, when do I get the ham and the turkey? Like, whenever we're done eating, dog. So, first, before I actually go into the list of aunts and uncles that I kind of came up with for One Piece, which is actually kind of a rather short one, give and take the other copious amounts of family members that get shown in One Piece. There'll also be a little bit of like the hypothetical situation for some of these too. Hypothetical situations are more during the end of this one, but funny thing out of stuff that happened over my family Thanksgiving on my dad's side of the family. My cousin, one of my younger cousins, she's, well, not that much younger than me, but a couple of years younger than me. She recently got married, which I may have mentioned in a previous video or mentioned in a video that was recorded before this, but will go up after this. Also, this is my first actual One Piece video with my new One Piece wall scroll. It's from the Zoe arc. So we see Carrot way in the background. Bunny! Yeah. My cousin recently got married, and her husband is from Spain. She'd done a lot of like studying abroad in Spain and traveled there a lot and everything like that. So they met, and he's been here before, like before COVID. He came over at one point, and so we got to meet him and everything like that. My cousin, her brothers and her father are very tall, and her new husband is now like taller than all three of them. So he's quite tall. He's also very nice. And he's from Spain, so this was his first time actually having Thanksgiving here, because of course they don't celebrate Thanksgiving in Spain. And this was his first Thanksgiving, and so there's lots of food and everything like that. We had to do a slight explanation as to what like the snickerdoodle salad is and like what the like Jello salads were to him, or like my cousin had to like explain that to her husband. And I mean, this is not the first family thing he's been to. My grandfather had his 90th birthday party last month, and he was at that, and he's been to a few other things as well, before then. But, so this is like the first big where there's lots of food, and it's kind of like a holiday type thing, of course, where it's, not something he's familiar with, because, he celebrates Christmas and stuff like that, so he was like used to Christmas and everything. Are you going to leave now? Let me let the dog out. Seriously, you don't want to wait a little longer? You don't want to hear the funny story? He's like, no, I want out of this room. Okay, fine. The dog left, but we have Stitch. he just happens to sit over here from now on, for the time being. So he's having his first, kind of big holiday that's not something he's already familiar with and everything, because he hasn't celebrated Thanksgiving before. And we had to do an explanation of that. And then my cousin and I got into the discussion of, so what's the difference between a salad and a casserole? And the answer to that was, of course, a casserole is hot. They're both like, mixes of foods and everything like that. And, he's like, so how is the snickerdoodle thing a salad? And it's like, well, there is fruit in it. There's grapes in it and apples in it that happen to be smothered in like marshmallow and snickerdoodles. So it's technically a salad. You will find that as Americans, we are very loosely define things as salad to make ourselves feel better about eating it. And he's not stupid by any means. My cousin would not be long-term attracted to stupid. Trust me. She's working on becoming a full-fledged nurse right now. So yeah, she's definitely not interested in stupid. If you end up watching this video, hi. But so he's like, so we're talking to him and everything like that. And, he had asked me like, well, what kind of anime would you recommend to, show to my cousin? And I'm like, I'm running through anime in my head. I'm like, nope. Too long, too gory, too long, too gory. Both too long and too gory. I think they settled on like they may try some Miyazaki stuff. Because the new husband knows anime and knows One Piece along with some other stuff. But like my cousin doesn't know as much about like, anime as like I do. But the other button on the joke that happened yesterday was that at one point my cousin got up to go get more food, and like was like, okay, well, they have dessert out and there's pie. Her husband, there's pie? Yeah, and he was like, but I thought the snickerdoodle salad was dessert. And both my cousin and I just looked at him like, no, pie is dessert here. The snickerdoodle salad just happens to be a part of the meal. But I think he got pie at some point. And, there's like, we had apple, and I think there was definitely pumpkin. I don't remember what other kinds there were, but there was pie. But now into the actual meat of this video. First I need water. Okay, meat of the video. So, aunts and uncles in One Piece. So, most of the Straw Hats, they have, a mother or a father, or they have a sister or a brother. In a lot of cases, it's like the only, I was like, going through the whole list of like which ones have biological siblings. It's just like, not Luffy, not Nami, not Usopp, not Zoro, Sanji is like the one that has biological siblings, because, they're also biologically enhanced siblings in regards to, Ichiji, Niji, Yonji, and Reiju. But, so Sanji has the biological siblings, but like, Frankie doesn't have biological siblings. He's got siblings in the Frankie family and in, Iceberg, and, Chopper may have like, I don't know, a reindeer biological sibling wandering around out there, but it's not like they're a part of the story. Same thing with, Jinbei may have a biological sibling, but we've never heard of them. Brook, if Brook had any siblings, they'd either be just a little older or just a little younger than him, and either they would be like maybe still living in like the kingdom where he came from, and they're trying to like, they see the posters for like Skull King or Soul King Brook, and it's just like, this skeleton has the same name and same afro as my brother. Nah, it can't be him. My whole theory of, Brook's family is, his mother had the very curly hair, and his dad was very tall. His, where he got his afro and his height from. And, so that's what we have there for them. But moving on to like the other, further out in regards to stuff, the only Straw Hat that has a biological, aunt or uncle is Robin. She has her uncle Oren and her aunt Roji. And they lived on Ohara. They were the ones that took care of Robin after, when Olvia went off to go and do her, you know, research and everything on the poneglyphs when Robin was about 2. She got left with her aunt and uncle. It is Orin is Olvia's, I believe, biological uncle, I believe, is her, you know, her paternal uncle. Or maternal uncle, sorry, maternal is the mother's side. And then Roji is, of course, the angry-looking ant woman that we see. We do get, like, one image of, like, Robin's cousin, but I couldn't find an anime image, so it's just, like, she's, like, in one panel, and her name is, Mizuria. And she's, like, the spoiled little brat, because, of course, Robin's aunt is extremely abusive to Robin, and, you know, gets angry whenever Robin uses her devil fruit powers, and gets extremely angry whenever Robin, you know, eats more than she's, you know, allotted, even though she's, like, starving, and, you know, so she's very abusive to her. Orin, her uncle, kind of seems to be maybe, like, another archaeologist, but he's not as, like, as in-depth into it as, like, Olvia is, or he's not as, like, that far interested in it as, like, Olvia was. We do know that probably all 3 of them are most likely dead, given the fact that, like, the 3 of them ended up on, like, the ship that Sakazuki blew up when he was a vice admiral, when it was leaving Ohara. So they were most likely killed in that. So they're probably not around anymore. So again, barring by some miracle Olvia surviving the destruction of Ohara, you know, Robin's still the only one left of her family, and the only one left from Ohara, of course. Moving on down the list, the other Straw Hat that has, I guess, a form of an aunt or an uncle is Frankie. Because I've mentioned this before, Tom had a brother, Den. Den is also a shipwright. He is a burring wolfish merman, is what he is. Fishman, merman. And he is also a shipwright, and he works in the sea forest. He's also like a sea forest researcher. So he lives down on, you know, Fishman Island in the Ryugu Kingdom and everything. And currently he's possibly still working on, like, getting the Noah repaired, after, you know, the whole attack by Gordy Jones in the Fishman Island arc. Frankie and Den talked for a little while when Frankie finally got down to Fishman Island. Den probably knew about the fact that Tom was killed because, or that Tom is most likely dead or a prisoner somewhere, held by the world government. And because probably, you know, even if he hadn't been, you know, in, like, extreme contact with his brother, I'm sure that, you know, Kokoro probably got information to him, as I stated before, I think, or he would have, like, read about it in, like, the newspaper at some point in time. So I'm sure Den, like, knew about him, but, like, you know, and Den's also the one that explains to Frankie how, like, Fishman genetics work, the fact that, you know, yeah, Den and, you know, Tom are biological brothers, but they're completely different species. Tom was a fishman, where Den is a merman, and they're not even, like, the same type of, like, fish, like, one being, like, a pufferfish merman, and the other being, like, a pufferfish, you know, fishman. It's, you know, they're completely different types of fish. But, you know, we may see Den again, if anything. Like, he'll probably possibly show back up, like, the next time that, like, if the Straw Hats have to, like, return to Fishman Island, or, like, if, you know, if they see the Noah again at some point, like, if, you know, if they destroy the Red Line, you know, like, is possibly going to happen, then, you know, all the residents of, you know, Fishman Island will either swim up themselves or get on Noah and, you know, sail up, and, like, that'll have been, like, on the ship and, like, helped fix it and everything. So we might see him at some point. The next one that we get, that I am kind of more just here because it's, like, it's just kind of more stated. It's not really like they're naturally actually genetically related or maternally related or anything like that, is Sensei Maru and Kizuru. So Sensei Maru is, of course, one of the heads of the part of the division of, like, the science division and such like that in the Marines. He's, like, a guard for Vegapunk and everything. And Kizuru is, of course, you know, Borsellino is, of course, one of the generals. One of the you know, one of the current admirals, with the light flute. Yes, he's the light flute. No, the light fruit, or the glint fruit, I think was what it was called. But, when we first meet Sentamaru and, Kizuru, Sentamaru refers to Kizuru as uncle, which, initially may appear that, like, okay, maybe they're related. I mean, like, they don't look like they're genetically similar by any means, but, in regards to, physical traits, but, maybe. I mean, like, Sentamaru is kind of strong, and even probably without his devil fruit, Borsalino is probably quite strong. The devil fruit just makes him even stronger. But, it's more of like the uncle comes from the whole, like, the Japanese word commonly used in, like, Yakuza families to refer to, like, your family member as, like, boss. So kind of the same way that, like, the fire tank pirates referred to as Beige as father. It's that, like, respectful, honorable type of a thing. It does not really mean that much in regards to, like, they're not genetically related. I mean, like, mafia families do sometimes intermarry, or sometimes, like, members of your family are also part of the mafia in certain cases, but that doesn't mean that there's actually any, like, legitimate relation between Sentamaru and, Kizuru, except that, maybe Kizuru has a little bit more fondness for him, I guess. The next one, and the main reason why I kind of wanted to make this video, is because I just finished watching the Dressrosa arc, and of course, one of the big themes in the Dressrosa arc is family and what family means. Kind of that's one of the big things of, like, One Piece in regards to that as well, with, like, Doflamingo and, the Don Quixote pirates, representing this kind of, like, this concept of, like, a found family, kind of similar to the way the Straw Hats are, because you cannot tell me that, as long as his family members remain loyal to him, you cannot tell me that, I'm pretty sure that Doflamingo would have been willing to do almost anything to, like, protect his family members as long as they stayed loyal to him. As long as they stayed loyal to him and to each other, they would have done almost anything for each other. I don't see that as being, that's not one of his character flaws. And, Doflamingo has quite a few character flaws. His determination to protect those that he sees as family is not one of them. And we kind of see this kind of go when he brings, like, Viola into the family and she becomes Violet. And one of the things, the other side of that, the other flip coin of that is regards to, like, the Dole family, the Riku family, representing this kind of idea of what family is, of, this biological representation of family, with, Riku and Viola and Rebecca and, Scarlet part of that as well, and, like, Kiros with marrying into the family, that, like, those ones represent this other side of the family. And, Rebecca, she spends not the full 10 years, but quite an amount of time, living in the Colosseum and fighting in the Colosseum after, she loses her mother, she forgets about her father, and she doesn't even realize she forgot about him. She, her kingdom goes to hell in a handbasket. This tin soldier takes care of her and, is like this, is her friend. And then, she ends up getting, he helps her train and get stronger so she can defend herself. And then she gets captured, and then she has to stay in the Colosseum for so many years. Kind of being used as just this other point of ridicule in regards to Doflamingo using her as this, fodder piece. And then, of course, Riku is kind of in the, is within the Colosseum as well, under the name of, Ricky. And, and I went over, like, their relationship as, like, grandfather and granddaughter. And I went over, the relationship to a degree between Riku and then, like, Scarlet and Viola in regards to that their relationship in regards to how much he obviously loved his daughters, and Riku obviously loves Kiros as well, beyond just as his friend. He's his son-in-law. He was his defender. He's the one that saved him from the Don Quixote family. When everything happened. So he very much does love Kiros in that regard. That never changed. And, he was distraught when he realized that he had forgotten about his son-in-law, this man that he had helped, this boy that he had helped, give a purpose to and then build up. you know, he was so distraught. And, you know, this is fairly fresh in my mind because, of course, as I said, I just finished, you know, watching the Dressrosa arc because that just got dubbed in the anime. And, you know, the other part, the main reason that I want to talk about this is, of course, the relationship between Viola and Rebecca. Now, it's been several years since I've read the Dressrosa arc. I still remember the main beats of it, of course. In regards to, you know, this happens, that happens, this fight, that fight, this fight, that fight, this moment happens, that moment happens, this character backstory is revealed with Law and Doflamingo, and, you know, then, you know, everything that happens with Rebecca and Kiros and everything like that. Like, I remembered that. I had forgotten that there was this. I knew that at one point there was the moment where, like, where Viola stands up to Doflamingo, where, you know, it's during, like, the big final climactic setup of the battle when, you know, the bird cage is closing in and everything, and she's like, you know, I was a part of the Doflamingo family, the Don Quixote family, for, like, you know, for 10 years, and, like, I helped him and everything, and, you know, and, like, she was doing it, to protect her father and her niece so they wouldn't be killed, but she also, you know, she was helping the people that had, you know, or the reason that her sister was dead and that her father was in this case and why her niece was technically at the time an orphan, even though she's still a Kiros, but she didn't know that, and Rebecca and, you know, Scarlet, you know, Viola didn't remember that. She knew that the tin soldier had been, you know, keeping an eye on Rebecca and, like, keeping her safe, but she, you know, Viola didn't know that you know, the soldier was Kiros. She didn't remember that until he got changed back into being a human, when, you know, Sugar's power broke. And, you know, the part that I had forgotten about was that when Viola is, you know, she's, you know, confronting Doflamingo and she's, you know, she's ready to fight him. She's like, you know, as a former member of the Don Quixote family, it's, you know, I take it upon myself to try to be the one to stop you. Even at the cost of my own life, I have to make up for what I did as a member of the royal family. And the fact that I could not stop you. And the fact that I have helped you. So kind of, you know, been a part of the reason for why my, you know, people have, you know, suffered for the past, you know, 10 years. And, you know, she fights against him for a little bit, and then he, you know, kind of, you know, used the parasite string to, you know, kind of pin her so she can't move. And then Rebecca shows up, and Rebecca wanted to try to get some blows in on Doflamingo as well, because, you know, he's kind of the reason her mother's dead, and, you know, everything that happened with her father, and, you know, just everything in general, he's kind of the reason for that. Well, he is just the straight up reason for that. Diamante is the exact reason her mother is dead, because he's the one that shot her, but, you know, you get the idea. But, you know, Doflamingo is the reason that everything happened. And, you know, Rebecca wants to get some of her licks in on him as well, not that I blame her. And she shows up and she tries to fight him, but he, of course, uses the parasite string on Rebecca. And he is, you know, going to, you know, use his, you know, powers to, you know, force Rebecca to be the one to kill her own aunt. And, you know, the same way that, you know, he'd made, you know, that he made Riku run around and had him and his soldiers, you know, attack so many people and hurt them and kill them, you know, 10 years ago, and then, you know, did the same thing to a bunch of the Marines and the different citizens, you know, during everything that was going on during the Dressrosa arc as well. You know, he manipulated them into hurting other people even though they didn't want to cause more and more chaos. And, you know, which admittedly, I mean, hey, I mean, that's technically a good strategy on his part, but he's still demented in the head. And there's the moment where, you know, Rebecca's trying to fight against him. And I mean, like, Rebecca's strong. There's the possibility she might have observation hockey, but we're not sure on that moment yet. But she is obviously not physically strong enough to be able to, like, defy Doflamingo in this regard. And she is, you know, being forced to, you know, use her sword to, you know, run at Viola and try to attack Viola to kill her. And, you know, Doflamingo is just like, you know, come on, Rebecca, come on, you know, it's time to come and, you know, kill your aunt, basically. And, you know, Viola even shouts out at Rebecca, you know, it's like, and it's, I had to, like, go through and, like, rewatch the scene to make sure that I got the words right, because it's the quote that's on the end of this video. It's like, you know, it's, you know, close your eyes, Rebecca, and this is just, just a bad dream, just close your eyes and it'll all be over with. And, this isn't your fault. I don't blame you, that type of a thing. I know it's scary and it'll be a nightmare and it'll scar you, but it's not your fault. I don't blame you, in regard to what's about to happen. And, Rebecca is like this close to, unfortunately, being the one that does her aunt in, but of course that's when, Law uses, that's right when, Luffy gets his hockey ability back and everything after his, 10-minute break. And, Law uses Room and Shambles to, switch Luffy and Viola. So Rebecca ends up, whacking Luffy on the head, with the sword. He's got his, forehead hockeyed up and he gets the brunt of that attack and everything. So he's fine. Rebecca's fine. She didn't end up killing her own aunt, which is also good. And then, Law then, shambles, Rebecca away to, where he is with Viola. And, Rebecca and Viola watch as the final battle, the final, showdown happens between Luffy and Doflamingo. And of course, Luffy wins. And then, of course, Viola and Rebecca are both, crying and very happy and everything like that after Luffy defeats Doflamingo, because now their kingdom has been freed and everything. And then, of course, the next moment that happens kind of between the two of them is when, Rebecca has gone to the palace with Viola and with Riku and everything. And when, Rebecca gets put into the dress that looks exactly like her mother's, probably was her mother's, in all honesty, which is nice hand-me-down type of thing. And what ends up happening is, of course, the day that, when the Straw Hats have to leave, when all the Straw Hats and they're half of the crew and the soon to be members of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet are trying to escape and everything. Luffy dashes off, gets Rebecca from the castle, and then runs her back to where Kiros is. Because, of course, he wants to make sure that Rebecca is okay with the fact that Kiros is lying about who her real father is. That made up this lie that, everything. And of course, we find out that, everybody that's all the older people in the kingdom that were alive at the time, it's like, they all know that like, Scarlet went off to go be with Kiros. And because, it's like, if there's one thing that apparently the guards of Dressrosa cannot do, it's not keep a secret that, like, our princess didn't actually die, even though we held a big funeral for her. She went off and married the former captain of the guard because they were in love, and, he didn't, blah, 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 blah. So it's like, most of the adults know that, Scarlet went off and married Kiros and everything, and then they had Rebecca, and that they lived in this little shack, little cottage type thing on, like, up on the Flower Hill and everything. And, near the flower fields and everything. And, they all knew about that, and that's kind of why they probably, bought so many flowers from, Scarlet and everything when she, when they would sell the flowers, and, made sure that they had food and everything like that, because, it's like, it's their princess and they want her happy and everything. And, Viola had already kind of taken up the new post of being the new princess at that time, so Scarlet could go be with Kiros. And then we basically have a repeat of that moment where, when Luffy shows up at the castle to get Rebecca and take her to where Kiros is, that, Rebecca asked the same thing of Viola of, I want to be with my father. All I've wanted for the past 10 years, ever since my mother died, was to be with my father again. And, and I've spent the last 10 years with the soldier and wanting to live in the same house with him, even though we couldn't. And he's, he never abandoned me. And then, when they got their memories back, it's like, oh, he's my father and he's been with me the whole time. And, and I forgot everything about him and everything. And, and I went over that in, like, the Father's Day video for, like, Rebecca and Kiros, of course. But, Viola, of course, she's, basically gives Rebecca her blessing of, go. You go be with your father. I will be the princess. You go. I will stay and be the princess. And, like, Viola, Rebecca kind of, Viola, of course, takes up that steed, and she is now the official princess of Dressrosa, the heir to the throne. And, of course, Rebecca is with her father, and, Kiros kind of basically got, like, his old job back type of a thing, too, of course, after, like, Luffy and the others left, and they're starting to rebuild Dressrosa. And, Rebecca is kind of like Viola's lady in waiting or so. handmaid, whatever you want to refer to her as, something along those lines. But it's that same, Rebecca asked basically the same thing of Viola that her mother did. It's, can you be princess so I can go do this? And that says nothing about, like, Scarlet probably would have been an amazing queen as well, and Rebecca probably would be an amazing princess and an amazing queen. And it's, it's the same question for the same man, but for different reasons. For Scarlet is because she was in love with him, and for Rebecca it's because he's her father and she loves him. But of course, like, we see Viola and Rebecca, like, in the Reverie arc, Levelly, whichever you want to refer to it as. We see them there, and they're very happy, and very much getting to bond and be aunt and niece and everything, and so that's nice. And then the next set that we get that's like aunts and uncles to the nth degree. The other character in this that does like aunts and uncles out the wazoo is Pez, Capone Pez. Capone and Chiffon's son, not daughter. She had Pez, of course, has the 84 aunts and uncles out the wazoo on her mother's side, between all of Chiffon's siblings and everything. And then on the other side, on his father's side, the fire tank pirates, basically he has like a whole bunch of mafia themed pirates as like aunts or as like uncles. I don't think we ever see any females on his crew besides Chiffon, but like all of the others, like Gotti and Vito, and a bunch of the other members are kind of like probably ooh and ah over Pez all the time when because he's such a cute little baby type of thing. And he's their he's like their nephew for all intents and purposes. And, I would say out of like all of the siblings that we see Chiffon interact with, which the only two that we really see her have like positive interactions with out of all of her siblings is Pudding and of course Lola. And of course, Lola is probably going to be like an amazing little, amazing aunt to, Pez, and just like want to spoil them all over the place. And of course, now that Lola and Gotti are married, Gotti will of course officially be, Pez's uncle. So there's that. And then on top of that, probably like Pudding and Chiffon seem to get along fine for the most part. So I'm pretty sure that at times maybe Pudding got to like babysit Chiffon, or got to babysit like Pez every now and then. But it probably wasn't too much because Lola or like Chiffon probably wanted to keep Pez away from most of her family. Just because of the fact of like how abusive her mother was to her. She doesn't want to risk something like that happening to her son. Not that I blame her in the slightest, given the fact that like Oven outright attacked her after the wedding and everything like that. Admittedly, in his defense, she did try to help kill their mother, but give a little, take a little. And those were kind of about it for the ones that was like, oh, these are definite like aunts and uncles. Now we get into slightly hypothetical setups here. So I guess kind of the first one that I kind of blanked on this would be like, I guess by technicality, like Eva is like, I guess, Ivankov is kind of like the closest thing to like an aunt that like Luffy and Sabo have. Aunt or uncle, depending on what day of the week it is. And, because, Ivankov gets, is like Dragon's best friend type of thing. So it's like, I guess there's a little bit of that, but not too much there. But what I wanted to put here was, first off, we have Rayleigh and the Rogers Pirates, which is basically just like, had Roger lived, he hadn't, had he not been sick and everything like that, and had he still had Ace probably would have been raised around Rayleigh and Scopper and Crocus and, so many of the other Rogers pirates and everything like that, growing up in these tales about like everything that his father and his, that all of them have done and everything like that from his mother and from his father himself. And he would have had like Rayleigh as like an uncle. I mean, like, you could not tell me that having Silver's Rayleigh, Dark King Silver's Rayleigh, as your basically honorary uncle would not be freaking awesome. You could not tell me that. And then by that extension, you get like Shocky as an aunt. She will teach you how to shake down people to get money from them, regardless of how much money they actually owe you. And then, Rayleigh will just teach you how to lose it all at gambling, because Rayleigh doesn't actually know, isn't very good at gambling from what we've deduced. So there's that. So, the Roger Pirates would have been very good for that. And the other ones that are basically like aunts and uncles, that the Roger Pirates kind of are, and that the Whitebeard Pirates are, is for Momo and Hiyori. Because, of course, Momo and Hiyori are born on Whitebeard's ship. And, they're around Whitebeard and Marco and, Vista and Jozu and, Whitey Bay and like so many of the other, Whitebeard pirates and everything. Yes, Teach. But around so many of the different Rogers pirates and or so many of the different Whitebeard pirates and everything like that for, the first couple of years of their lives. And, you cannot tell me that like the rest of the crew didn't help raise them. You can't tell me that they didn't do that, because of course they did. And, they would have been very happy with, very happy to help take care of Momo and Hiyori and everything like that. And like, Izo there as well. And then of course, then when, when Odin and Toki go to be on Roger's ship for, the year and everything, well, they get to Laugh Tale and everything, that, Momo and Hiyori, of course, come with them. And, of course, we get the moment where we have, like, Roger and Rayleigh, like, both holding them and are just like, oh, they're so cute, type of thing. It's just like, oh, they're so cute. They make me want a kid of my own. Well, you'll have a kid of your own, Roger. You, unfortunately, just won't get to watch him grow up. He's also going to hate you for various reasons. Also, I don't know if we ever find out if, like, Ace and Rayleigh meet. I'm like, I don't know if we ever find out about that, because Ace would have gotten to Saba Odi, a couple of years before Luffy, of course, got there. And I know that in the, the light novel that they wrote about Ace and the Spade Pirates, that, like, he met Shanks at some point in time, but I don't remember if it ever stated whether or not he met Rayleigh. Because Rayleigh probably would have looked at Ace and would have realized in an instant, even possibly without hearing his name, that this is Roger's son. This has to be Roger's son. And, I don't know, maybe they had an interaction at some point in time. Maybe Ace got lost somehow. Well, he doesn't have Zoro's directions, but maybe he wandered around and, somehow ended up at Shocky's bar, and like Shocky and him ended up talking at some point in time, and like, he paid her, of course, but like, they talked at some point, and then like, he went back and forth from, the New World into the Paradise a few different times and everything like that. Because, he would have had to, because he was in the, the New World, with Whitebeard at various points in time, and then he was, in, the, in Paradise side and everything, when he saw what was around Luffy at Alabasta and everything. So he went back and forth between them, obviously. So maybe, I guess there's a possibility at some point, well, he, stopped in Saba Oda, and maybe he ended up at, Shocky's bar and ended up meeting Shocky. Maybe Rayleigh wasn't there, but maybe Shocky was. But like, Momo and Hiyori basically were, and then they were on, Roger's ship for, a couple of months before they had to go back to Wano because Toki got sick. And then, Momo and Hiyori and Toki and Nekomamushi and Hinarashi, over there on the poster, giant cat, giant dog, ended up, staying back on Wano, of course, with the rest of the Scabbards, until Odin returned after they found Laugh Tale and everything like that. But, so, like, you can't tell me that, like, Shanks and Buggy and, the others, like, didn't have fun helping, helping to take care of Momo and Hiyori for, like, a little while, for the time that they were on the ship. You can't tell me that they didn't have fun with that. And they probably had a lot of fun helping take care of them. And Buggy and Ace would have been, or Buggy and Shakes would have been like, still like, kids at that point in time, but they probably would have, liked having to, help take care of Momo and Hiyori, because it's like, oh, thank God we're not the youngest ones on the ship anymore. Yay! Is it my turn to change the diaper, or is it your turn to change the diaper? Shakes, get back here! I am not doing this! obviously in that instance, I'm Buggy. No. But, you know, so we had that. But then the other side of that is that, like, Momo and Hiyori basically would have had the scabbards, you know, the 9 red scabbards, or what would have become the 9 red scabbards plus Izo, as, like, their other uncles, and, like, you know, Kiku Nojo as, like, their aunt, type of thing. And, you know, regardless of, you know, Kanjuro, the entire time when I'm watching the Dressrosa arc at this point in time, because, of course, like, Kanjuro being the traitor has, of course, been revealed at this point in time in the, you know, in the manga, you know, currently in the manga and in the anime there to that point in time. But, like, when I'm rewatching the Dressrosa arc, or watching it, I'm just like, every time I see Kanjuro on screen, I'm just like, leave him there, just leave him there, just leave him there, just like, kill him, kill him, kill him, knock him over, let him get crushed by the strings, let him get crushed by the rubble, destroy the bird, something, don't trust him, let him stay in the trash compactor. You know, it's just like, every time I see him, I'm just like, die. And that's probably gonna happen the whole way through it, so too. When I get to that, when that comes out next. But just like, you know, just like strangle Kanjuro now and save them so much trouble down the line. I guess it would have been a slightly different story had they figured out that Kanjuro was the traitor a lot earlier. Orochi wouldn't have been able to get as much information about them, but he also would have become probably a bit more panicked over the fact that, like, his spy isn't sending him information anymore. So yeah, but like the scabbards probably would have been like very similar to like aunts and uncles, and of course Kinemon even takes up the role with Momo of being his father after the time jump, because he, you know, him and Momo have to have that, you know, set up for when they're outside of Wano to make it that like people don't get suspicious as to who Momo's father is. So, you know, that's why, you know, Kinemon takes on that role. Keeping that hidden from everyone in regard to the fact that then only the scabbards know. And, you know, he very much takes to that role. You cannot tell me that Kinemon does not take to that role of wanting to protect Momo and wanting to keep him safe. And of course, you know, I watched, you know, the Punk Hazard arc recently, of course, and they showed, you know, all the the interactions and everything like that we have with, you know, Kinemon there at that point in time. Between him and Momo and everything like that. So that's a very good iteration that we see there of the way that they act. And the last hypothetical setup that I have. Okay, this is just more hypothetical fun that I wanted to throw in at the end, because I'm just like, I'm sitting there going like, making up this list, and I'm just like, well, you know, it's not as long of a list, but I'll ramble at various points in time, as I have. But I'm like, are there any other aunts or uncles or surrogate aunts and uncles that I can think of? Let me see. And like it popped in my head, of course I'm like, well, by whatever point in time in the future, if any of the Straw Hats happen to have a child, regardless of which Straw Hat, regardless of, you know, whoever the other parent is, you know, whether it is Luffy and Nami, or Nami and Sanji, or Zoro and Robin, or Zoro and Kuina, or well, not Kuina, but Zoro and Tashigi, or Zoro and Hiyori, or, you know, Frankie and Robin, or, you know, Luffy and Hancock, if you want to go down that road, or like whatever other variation of combo for ships you want to go with. Any kids that the Straw Hats have are gonna grow up with like the rest of the Straw Hats and like extension of Ace, you know, or like, you know, Sabo if it's Luffy's kid, or, you know, Nojiko if it's, you know, Nami's kid, or, you know, Awesome Aunt and Reiju if it's Sanji's kid, or Awesome Uncle in regards to, you know, Iceberg if it's like Frankie's kid and the rest of the Frankie family. You know, it's like, they're gonna have awesome, you know, surrogate aunts and uncles on the Straw Hats. You know, it's like, regardless of whichever one is their parent, minus Brooke, because I don't think Brooke can have kids at this point in time. I don't think that part of his anatomy survived. But that would have been a miracle. But, you know, or like, you know, if Chopper and Milky have a kid or something like that down the line, we'll see. But, you know, we get that, you know, it's like whatever kids the Straw Hats have, their aunts and uncles are going to be awesome. It's just like, okay, maybe, you know, it's like if it is like, just for the habitat, say that it's Luffy's kid. Say that somehow Luffy has a kid in the future. Whatever the setup is for that. Nami's the mom, Boa Hancock's the mom, take your pick. Whatever ship you want to go with. that kid is going to grow up with like, maybe I don't want to be a fighter the same way that my dad is. I want to do swords. Just go to Zoro. Or I want to be a shipwright. Go to Frankie. I want to do sniping. Go to Usopp. You know, I want to draw maps. Go to Nami. Or navigate. Go to Nami. I want to be a doctor. I'm going to go hang out with Chopper. I want to learn about history. Go study with Robin. I want to do music. Go learn with Brooke. I want to learn about fishman karate. Go work with, Jimbei. Take your pick of whatever. I want to cook. I'm going to go hang out with Sanji. Or, it is kid. It's like, oh, I want, it's like, I want to learn, I want to go be a revolutionary. Go join Sabo. Take your pick. It's like you have all of these different ones that they can deal with that can be their aunt or uncle in those cases. It's like, oh, like, whatever setup you want to do for whoever's kid it is. Or even if it's just like adopted kid or whatever, it's like they're gonna have like the Straw Hats as like their aunts or uncles, and you can't tell me that wouldn't be like awesome. Like it's the same way as like if Ace had gotten to grow up around the Rogers Pirates, he would have had a much different opinion of his father, but he also would have had these other pirates, these other men. Because I don't know if we ever know if there's any females on the pirate crew, on the Rogers crew besides Toki. I don't think so. But like, we see them, and it's that whole concept of like they grow, you grow up that way. And, it's like I come from two big families. My mom is 5th of 7, and my dad is, the eldest of 6. And, most of the kids had kids of their own. One way or the other, but it's just like, it's like you get surrogate aunts and uncles in there too. Like my sister's best friend, like her daughter is like my niece as well, because sister's best friend has been in the picture since like before I was born, or like not long after I was born, as long as they've known each other. And like, I am surrogate aunt to, that kid, to, her daughter, and like my sister is like, aunt to, her kids, and vice, to that, and like friend is, blah, 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 blah. So it's, it's like, I get that concept of like surrogate aunts and uncles, that, it's not always about blood. Same thing with like the brothers and sisters with like Luffy, Ace, and Sabo. That's not about blood. With Nami and Nojiko, that's not about blood. Same thing with like Iceberg and Frankie. It's, that's not blood that they're related by, but they are related by bond. And, for, the aunts and uncles setup, it's like having the Straw Hats as aunts or uncles would be freaking awesome. Yes, it would. Okay. That's it. That's what I have for the Straw Hats, aunts, and uncles video. It ended up being a little bit longer than I anticipated, but as I said, I probably rambled. So that's what I have. I thank you very much for watching. Since this will go up on Thanksgiving, I hope that you are going to have a good Thanksgiving, or that you had a good Thanksgiving, give or take, how you, want to, whatever time of day you're going to be having your Thanksgiving. I hope you have a good Thanksgiving, or if you're watching this and you're not in America, then, I hope you had a good day anyway. So I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye! Close your eyes, Rebecca. You don't have to see this. This is a bad dream. No matter what happens, forget everything. I won't hold a grudge against you. So, just forget it. It's not your fault at all. I'm sorry, Rebecca. This will leave a deep scar in your mind.